Hello, good night, people. I would like to share my testimony on how I found Jesus Christ. I'll try my best every night to share a different part in my testimony because it's very long. Forgive me if I don't speak proper English. I grew up in the Caribbean and I just want to share my testimony. The Lord has been prompting me to share it, so I'm not going to say my name because part of my testimony involves my family. And many of them have not come out clean about this family secret. They're still holding on to the things that they went through in life. So I'm not going to say my name, nor will I show my face until my family members speak about what we went through. So let's start off when I was 4 years old. I could remember so much when I was 4 years old. I was a happy child, a playful child. I had 2 younger sisters at the time. I had an older sister and an older brother. We were very poor. Like I said, we grew up in the Caribbean where there were wooden houses and galvanized roof or metal roofing. And we were very poor. We lived in a 1-room apartment. And my mom had, at that time, she had 5 of us. And my oldest brother, my sister, myself, and 2 young sisters. So she had 5 of us, and my mom had to do ends meet. So my mom never really admitted to us, but her husband did admit to us that my mom used to go out and sleep with men to get money to feed us so that we can eat, until she finally went into housekeeping and she started doing housekeeping so that she can feed us and maintain us. So when I was 4, I was always a happy child. I remember my mom used to dabble herself as well in voodoo, we call it in the Caribbean. I remember people used to come to my mom to find out like who stole money from them or about their husbands and everything. And I used to watch my mom do certain witchcraft things where she will get a cup of water and take a ring and use a thread and say 3 words enchantment and the ring will move and all these things. I remember growing up seeing these things. Now, when we were 4, a Caucasian man came into our life. Like I said, my mom was poor and he was from America, and we welcomed him, and my mom was very happy that he came into our lives because he started providing us with a lot of things that we never had. But everything came with a price, and every family have secrets, just like how our family held on to a lot of secrets. So I'm going to share mine. So I remember upon meeting this Caucasian, we met him because that was the first time we had ever seen a Caucasian man. And I remember when we saw him, my brother said, "Look, it's a white man." That's what we call it in the Caribbean. And we were amazed because we have never seen Caucasians, Where we grew up, it was like a ghetto, small houses, small wooden houses, and everyone knew everyone, and everyone struggled. And when we met this guy, he became a very good friend to my mom, and he became a good friend to us. He took us on a lot of trips, and we got clothes, we got little parties, we had food, something that sometimes we would go to bed without. So we had food that we could eat and all these things. And I remember as a child, like I said, my mom dabbled in witchcraft. I remember we used to go and visit one of her friends. And I remember one time they drew a circle on the ground. And they placed me and my 2 younger sisters in the middle of the circle to form a triangle in the circle. And they did enchantments around us. And I remember looking at the roof And this was the upstairs and downstairs building, and I remember water coming down from the walls, and the water that came, I don't know where the water was coming from, and it swirled around, like it just moved around the circle on the outside, and the water formed up in front of me. And I remember my mom friend telling me that I was chosen. And I never really understood what she meant, but from since that day I always had this gift. It's like I would tell people stuff about their lives, and like tell them, oh, this is gonna happen, and it actually happened, right? And I remember the lady used to say, oh, you're gonna be a psychic, and you know, I had believed that I was gonna be this big psychic and all these things, and I did not know that they ordained me into doing work for the enemy. So I remember when I was a child, we used to go by the Caucasians, by the Caucasian man, by his home. He lived in a very big house. It was a 3-bedroom house, very big. It was a concrete housing. Each room had a bathroom, and it also had a bathroom across the hall from the room sometimes that I will stay in. It had a kitchen, a dining room, a living room, and downstairs had a bedroom. Downstairs was like a 1-room studio apartment, and it also had the laundry room. It had a big backyard. It had fruit trees, mango trees, you know, hibiscus, and you know, different. The hibiscus tree as a decoration, and it had different fruit trees, because in the Caribbean we like to have fruit trees in our yard. So I remember going there, you know, when I was a young girl. And one thing I always remembered, that meeting that man was kind of a blessing, and then it turned out to be a curse, because he started to molest us, me and my younger sisters. At that time, when he started, I was 8 years old, or maybe younger, maybe about 7. I would say 7 or 8. And my sisters, one was at the time a year younger, and the other one was 2 years younger. So it was like 8, 7, and 6. And we were very young, and we didn't understand. Like, when he started doing it to me, I never understood, because my mom never taught us about these things, about people touching us in inappropriate areas. So I was never taught about those things. And I remember the first time that he touched me, he prepared a bubble bath for me, and I went into the tub, and I was naked. You know, at that time I was a very early developer, so I had developed breast, and you know, I menstruated probably like when I was 9 years old. And I remember him coming in there. He was on the toilet, and he was sitting down, and he was watching me. And first I didn't feel no way until I saw him take his private area out and started to play with it until he came. And I remember he would give us toys and stuff and tell us not to tell our moms, and I never did tell my mom. Like I said, we held on to that secret even up until now. It's kind of hard talking about it, because a lot of people would bring people in the children's life who would bring them harm, and sometimes children don't like to say certain things. They hold on to it. And I held on to that secret for so long, you know, and it almost destroyed me, but I'm not going to go way ahead of my time. So this went on for a very long time, you know. I remember sometimes when we used to go there and we used to spend the night, and I remember eating dinner sometimes and going to bed and waking up, touching down by like my private area, and it would hurt, and it would smell of a rubbery latex, you know. Found out as I got older it was condom. So he used to rape us at a very early age. I believe that he would put drugs in the drink that we would drink, and it will knock us out, because sometimes I don't even remember finish eating the food, and we'll wake up in the mornings. And I remember going to school after I've been through that ordeal. And I remember I used to try to hang out with the boys so that I could get tough. I never really wanted to hang with the girls. I would hang out with the boys just so that I could be tough, so that I could learn to defend myself. And I remember one time asking him to allow me to go to karate class. Imagine, this is the man who was abusing us since he was very little. And I took up karate, but I never used it to defend myself. Moving along forward, I remember that there were times my sisters and I, we were very close. But now, some of us, we don't talk, we separated, the devil like to do stuff like that. And I remember my brother, he was our protector. And what this guy did, when my brother would come up there, one time he placed money in his house, a couple $100 in his house. And my brother saw the money and he took it up. And he started accusing my brother of theft, because remember, for a predator to prey on his prey, he have to move the strong man that is there. And I remember my brother taking up the money and police got involved, and my brother was never allowed to come around at the house anymore. So the predator could do whatever he wanted with us. I remember moving along. I remember I started cutting myself at a very early age. I would take razors, and I would cut underneath my feet. And I remember cutting out chunks of my feet, of my flesh, and eating up my flesh underneath my feet. There were many times I could not walk on my feet. I remember biting my nails so low until it bleed. I remember my mom taking me to a psychiatrist, and she said, "You show symptoms of a person who was sexually abused." And she asked me, and I remember the guy being right there, because he was like, "Oh, we're going to take her to a psychiatrist and all this." And he was the one who was doing this thing to us. And I never told the psychiatrist anything, and I held on to that secret until God found me. I remember one time when I was, I think I was in 8th grade or 9th grade. I think I was about 14 years old. I remember one time me and my cousin, I told her, "Let's go up there, and she was like, "I don't want to go there because I heard he do a lot of bad stuff to you guys," because it was going around. My brother would tell people, "Oh, the white man is having intercourse with my sisters. He's raping them and nothing's being done," and we would deny it. And, forgive me for saying white man, but that's what we call him in the Caribbean. But I know the white word is Caucasian, but I'm just trying to tell you what my brother used to say. And I remember when I was about 13, 14, and me and my cousin, we went up in the area where he lived. And it was in the night. And I remember we went into the house, because he used to leave the front door open, because he had some dogs, like 2 dogs. They knew me, because basically I practically grew up there, me and my sisters. And just to verify, I do not know if this guy was in a relationship with my mom. I don't think they were in a relationship. I think that she just needed the help, and this was the outcome of it. And I just pray that the Lord lead me to speak without crying, you know, because it's very dramatic for me. And I'm just want to share my testimony, and I don't know who this could help, you know. And I remember when me and my cousin was going up to his home, and we entered into the room that I was in, and I didn't see him, so I guess he was in his bedroom. And when we went into the room, I remember there was a DVD. At that time it was DVD, and the DVD was in the video player, and it had 3 X's, XXX, and it had dates, you know. This was in the 90s, the early 90s. And I remember she said, "Ooh, that looks like a pornography video. Let's push it in." I remember pushing in the video, and I saw my sisters. One was 10 years old, one was 9, and then my mom had gotten another little girl at that time. She was 5, making 5 years old. And I remember seeing them performing oral on this man. Each one of them was in his room performing oral on this man. And my little sister, who was at the time 5 years old, was standing by the door, and, you know, she was just observing, and then she began to take part along with my other sisters performing oral on this man, because we didn't know any better. Remember, this man abused us since he was young. And I guess they thought that it was okay. And I looked at the video and I started crying, and my cousin looked at me and she said, "Oh my God, that's your sisters on the video." And I tell her, promise me you will never tell anyone, please, promise me." And she said, "Okay, I'll try my best to hold on to this secret." She said, "But it's wrong, and he's not supposed to do you guys do you that, and like, how can you live with yourself all these years knowing that he did that to you for so many years?" And I told her I just didn't want to hurt my mom, and that's why I try my best not to talk about it, and, you know, I try to forget it. And I remembered, oh Lord Jesus, I remember after we left that house, she did tell a few people, and I used to feel bad because, you know, some people used to turn to us and say, "Oh, the white man does got intercourse, like, you know, the white man have intercourse with them when they see us, you know." And we wouldn't say anything. There was a man, every time he would get drunk, he will always say that. I think he died now, and he will always see us, and he will always say that to us, and it affected me. And I used to just cut my skin all the time. I'll cut my skin, I'll eat my flesh. I couldn't eat meat that did not have blood inside of it. I always needed meat with blood. Sometimes I'll buy cow liver, and I'll just take a piece and I'll eat it one. I was always eating and drinking blood. And, you know, as I grew older, I started hanging out in the clubs. I was always in the clubs. You know, I was always in the clubs. And the next thing, every guy that I dated, he was a gangster, because we grew up in a gangster neighborhood, and I used to feel like I'm nobody. So I will always date men that are gangsters. I'll date men that women will look down on. I will always want a gangster in my life, because I always felt that I was not worthy of no one else but that. I remember when I had met my first daughter's father, because I have 2 children now, you know, I'm married. I remember when I met my first daughter's father, and he had asked me about it, and I was like, "Why would you ask me that?" He said, "I don't know, I heard people, you know, certain people used to say it on the streets, you know, because, you know, my cousin told people what she saw. And, you know, we were 14, so this was a very dramatic scene for her to see." And She told people what she saw. And he asked me, and I denied it, as always. I denied it. And yeah, I remember him constantly keep, stressing me about it, because me and my first child father had started dating, and I was like 15 years old. I guess I was looking for somebody to cover up all the hurt, And I remember going to Nevis sometimes by a cousin. I had an aunt, she was a Christian, and I remember sometimes going Nevis by my cousin. And, my cousin and my aunt. And I remember one night when I was there, he brought some drink for me, and I drank it, and it felt like drugs was inside of the drink. And I went to sleep, and my cousin raped me. Yes, he did rape me. In the morning when I woke up, I noticed that I had smelled like a jelly substance by my private area. And I couldn't believe that my cousin, whom I trusted, who I will actually help him fix vehicles and all these things, I would go there every summer. I couldn't believe that he would do me that. And from that day, I never went back up there. My mom always wondered why I didn't go back. I never went back. And I want to tell you, people who's going to listen to this, there is a spirit of rape and molestation that follows a lot of women. And that is why a lot of women are targeted, because the enemy have these spirits around them. Because when God opened my eyes to see it, and I'm moving ahead of my time, but I'm just trying to explain why these things were happening to me. Because when the Lord opened up my eyes to see the spirit of molestation and rape, that every person that will come in contact with me will try to do me these things, I couldn't believe it. And so like I said, I never went back there around my cousin again. And my mom used to wonder why, but I never went back. When I was with my first daughter's father, we used to talk, and he forced himself onto me. And he did rape me. Because it's like, I was looking for someone to love me, and I remember going up by his house, and we used to talk and stuff like that. And I remember, one night we started kissing and stuff, and he forced himself onto me, and I was like, no, and he was like, no, don't, and he forced himself onto me, and I just gave in, because by then I was feeling worthless, and I gave in. We had intercourse, and then we started dating. And I remember being with him. He was sick. He had sickle cell anemia, and I used to look after him. Me, a young girl, high school dropout. And I used to look after him and stuff like that. Like, when he would get sick, I would go to the hospital with this man, and I was there for him. And I was like, okay, I'm going to forget about what he did. I'm going to marry this man, whatever. Maybe that happened to other women. It's normal, and, yeah. So it didn't work out for us. He was a gangster. He was involved in a lot of thieving, and he would commit crimes, and I don't want to get too deep, but he will commit a lot of crimes and stuff like that. And it didn't work out. And I remember when I left him, when I left this man, I remembered he used to try to come and get me back, because he would cheat on me. Imagine you had sickle cell anemia, and he would cheat on me so constantly, and and I left him. And I remember when I left him, one day he came to my mom's house, and he was like, oh, I'm gonna go to another country, because me and my brother, we are gonna go on a move. Like, in the Caribbean, when we say move, this means like probably they're gonna go on a robbery or whatever, I don't know. and he went to this other Caribbean island, and he came by my home because we used to live across from each other. And he was like, come, I want you to come with me, you and my daughter, let me try to work it out so we can be a family again. And my mom interceded at the time, and she said, no, she's not going to go with you. It's over. I just want you to look after my grandchild, and that's it. Believe me, God interceded that day for my behalf. Because my child's father and his brother, when they went to the other island, they did the robbery and everything. And when they had robbed with whoever it was, I don't know, they in turn came back to the hotel, knocked on the door, shot my child father's brother head clean off his body with a shotgun, and they gave him 7 shots to the chest and legs, and he survived, but his brother died. And when I heard about it, my mom said, you see, this could have been you. And I cried because I was in shock, because it could have been me and my daughter who was dead. But God helped us. I remember meeting my first husband, because I'm divorced and I'm married again. I remember meeting my first husband after I left my child father. We worked together, and I remember meeting him. And he was a good guy. He wasn't a gangster. He was humble. He wasn't from the island that I was from, but he had lived there from young. And I was in love with this man. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. I had believed in all my heart that I would spend the rest of my life with this man. And I remembered maybe a couple months after we met, he asked me to marry him. And at that time, I had a 3-year-old making 4. And I was like, yes. But his father didn't approve, but we didn't care. We had a nice beach wedding, and we got married on the beach. And I remember my stepdad telling me that his father said, oh, that marriage is not going to last. And it didn't last. It lasted, honestly, about a year. But like I tell you, the spirit of molestation followed me. And I remember as my daughter grew older, she ended up telling me that my husband's brother used to molest her. But she told me this years after. She told me this when she was probably like 14. She never told me this before. And I remember when she told me at that time, I was saved, and I was like, God, you gotta help me. And I was crying out to God, and that boy died. He died. And, I'm going ahead of my time, but I'm just trying to explain as I go along. I remembered when I left that marriage, he would cheat on me. He did so many wrongs to me, and because when he met me, I was then a club girl. I used to go clubs, hang out all the time, and he wasn't a club guy, but I was a club girl because I was smoking weed and drinking, trying to forget about all the bad things that I went through, trying not to remember them. So I was deep in drinking and smoking and weed, and every night I go hang out, and my mama looking after my daughter, and he used to cheat on me. And he slandered me so much because I was going to clubs and hanging out and partying with my friends, dance hall clubs we have in the Caribbean, and he slandered me, and people believed him. People believed him. And I remembered when he cheated on me, I would always go back. And I would beg for my marriage, and I would try to work out my marriage. And I remember one day I couldn't take it because he had gotten this girl pregnant, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I called my sister, and she moved me out of the house. And I moved out. And when I moved out, I never looked back. I remembered filing for a divorce, but we weren't married for a year. We weren't even married for 6 months. And I remembered getting an annulment. He didn't show up to court because he did not want to divorce me, even though he had a baby on the way. But it was granted to me to get an annulment, which I did, and I was happy about that because I was free. I remembered still hanging out, partying, cutting up my skin, eating meat that was uncooked and drinking blood because I was hurt. I remember doing this a lot in my teen years, in my 20s. I remember doing it up until God saved me. But I'm not gonna go ahead of my time. I'm gonna end this here tonight, and I'm gonna send another one tomorrow. I just want to leave a few words of encouragement. I remember when I was going through all the molestation, I was going through rape. I remember I felt like nobody was there for me, nobody cared about me, nobody loved me, because I never knew my real dad. He left me when I was young. I was 1 month, and I never met him, and he lived somewhere in the States, I don't know. And I remember going through all of that, and I was hurt, and I didn't know who to talk to, I didn't know who to trust, so I held it inside of me. And that is why I indulge in smoking and in drinking. But I'm here to encourage you that it doesn't matter if someone does that to you. You have to tell somebody, because that is the only way you're going to get help. I was afraid and I was ashamed and I was young and I didn't want to tell nobody what I was going through. I even used to pretend in my mind that I was a virgin. You understand? That's how bad it was. But I was never none. My virginity was taken when I was raped. I didn't have that to give to a man. And I used to feel bad about the situation. But God changed it for me. And I'm here to encourage you that no matter what you're going through, God can do so much great things, because I have such a peace that even now I can talk about this. Years ago, I could not speak about it. If I would mention it, I would break out in tears. I would cry. I would mourn. I couldn't sleep when I would speak about this. But God has given me that peace now in my heart. A peace that passeth all understanding. That I can speak and feel happy, content, with no stress on my mind about it. God gave me that peace through His Son, Jesus Christ. So I'm here to encourage you and say not to give up. You're not the first. And I know many women are molested and raped, and they held on to it all these years without seeking help. But I'm here to tell you there's help out there. Because if God can do it for me, He can do it for you, and He can do it for anybody. And I'm here to say that you are somebody. Because the enemy used to make me feel like I'm nobody. But I come to realize that I am somebody. Because God made me a chosen generation. Oh my God. He made me a royal priesthood. A city set upon a hill that cannot be hid. He made me the light of this world. I am called, and He also chose me. He made me all these things. He made me strong. And most of all, He made me an overcomer. And I'm no longer a victim, because I'm not going to let it victimize me. And I have released it. But I could not find that release unless I put my trust in God. And I put my trust in Him. And I am here today as a testimony. Thank you all for listening to me. I will post another video tonight. I will continue. And I pray that God will just comfort you. I pray He will watch over you. He will strengthen you. I pray He will keep you safe. I pray that whatever you're going through, He gives your heart an ease. He will remove it. I pray that God will open up doors in your lives. I pray that He will increase y'all. And I pray that He will move and shift things in your life that will bring blessing. I pray that God will teach you guys how to be holy and righteous, because this is what He seeks. And I just pray a sweet sleep tonight and peace in your life that passeth all understanding. God bless you and good night.